The first time the monitors screamed in the intensive care wing, everyone froze. Not because alarms were unusual, but because they came from the room no one wanted to enter. The wounded SEAL commander lay there like a storm trapped in a broken body, his presence heavier than the machines keeping him alive. Nurses whispered his name like a warning, doctors tightened their jaws before rounds, and fear lived in the air thicker than antiseptic. Everyone feared him, not for what he could do now, but for who he had once been, and for the impossible pain he carried inside. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of people who change lives without being noticed, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this exist to remind us that compassion still wins, even in the darkest rooms. The hospital stood on the outskirts of San Diego, California, overlooking a strip of ocean that most patients never saw. In one isolated ICU room lay Commander Nathaniel Brooks, a decorated Navy SEAL whose name once inspired awe and pride across bases and battlefields. Now it inspired dread. A roadside explosion overseas had shattered his legs, fractured his ribs, and left his spine barely intact. Surgeons had saved his life, but they could not save the man he used to be. He woke angry, silent, and violent in ways that made seasoned staff request reassignment. He ripped out 4 lines, refused treatment, and stared through people as if they were already ghosts. Nathaniel's body healed inch by inch, but his mind was locked behind a wall built from loss. His team was gone. Men he trained, protected, and loved had died under his command. He survived, and survival felt like betrayal. Each day his rage simmered, erupting without warning. Administrators labeled him non-compliant. Some whispered he was a lost cause. Others said fear was the only thing that ever controlled him, and now even that was gone. That was the environment Hannah Caldwell walked into on her first week as a registered nurse. She was young, newly licensed, and carried herself with a calm that came not from confidence but from conviction. Raised in a small town in Ohio, she had learned early that pain did not make people monsters, it made them desperate. She had chosen nursing not because it was safe, but because it placed her where people needed someone to stay when everyone else stepped back. Hannah was assigned Nathaniel's room by mistake, or maybe by quiet design. Senior nurses avoided the assignment, and when she accepted it without hesitation, a few exchanged looks that mixed pity and disbelief. She had read his file. She knew the warnings. Still, when she stepped inside, she did not brace herself for battle. She focused on the man in the bed, broken but breathing, alive despite everything that tried to take him. The first days were brutal. Nathaniel refused eye contact, refused food, refused therapy. He lay rigid, jaw clenched, eyes burning with something close to hatred. Hannah moved through the room steadily, checking vitals, adjusting equipment, speaking softly even when no response came. She treated him not like a legend or a threat, but like a patient whose suffering had not yet found words. Other staff questioned her approach. They said kindness would not reach a man forged in war and shattered by guilt. They said distance was safer. Hannah listened, but she did not change. She had seen enough charts to know that healing did not begin with medicine. It began with being seen. Days turned into weeks. Nathaniel's physical condition improved, but his spirit remained immovable. Until one afternoon, when a sudden complication sent his heart rate spiraling. The room filled with urgency. Staff rushed in, tension sharp as glass. Through it all, Hannah stayed at his side, steady hands, unshaken voice, eyes locked on his face instead of the screens. Something shifted then, not outwardly but deep inside him. In that moment of fear and vulnerability, she did not flinch. After that day, the silence between them softened. Nathaniel began to tolerate her presence. He allowed her to reposition him, to guide him through painful exercises. The rage did not vanish, but it no longer dominated the room. Hannah noticed the way his eyes followed the window during sunset hours, the way his breathing changed when helicopters passed overhead. She adjusted care schedules to avoid triggering moments. Small choices, human choices. Progress was slow, almost invisible, but it was real. Nathaniel sat up for the first time with assistance, sweat pouring, teeth clenched. Later, he agreed to speak with a trauma counselor. The staff noticed. Whispers changed tone. Fear gave way to curiosity. What had the new nurse done that years of experience could not? The truth was simple and profound. Hannah never tried to fix Nathaniel. She did not demand gratitude or improvement. She offered consistency in a world that had ripped everything else away. She treated him like a man still worthy of dignity, even when he could not believe it himself. One evening, as rain lashed against the hospital windows, Nathaniel suffered a setback. Pain overwhelmed him. Panic clawed its way back. And for a moment it seemed the old storm would return. Hannah stayed past her shift, sitting beside him long after the hallway lights dimmed. She did not speak in platitudes, she stayed present. In that quiet endurance, something inside Nathaniel finally broke, not in anger but in release. From that point on, healing accelerated. Physical therapy sessions became longer. Meals were eaten. Laughter, faint but real, found its way back into the room. The commander who once terrified everyone now nodded to staff, thanked them, even apologized for the past. The impossible was happening, not through force or authority, but through compassion. Months later, Nathaniel took his first steps with assistance. The room erupted in disbelief and quiet pride. Doctors called it remarkable. Nurses called it a miracle. Hannah called it human resilience finally given space to breathe. As Nathaniel prepared for transfer to a rehabilitation center, he was no longer the man everyone feared. He was still wounded, still grieving, but he was alive in ways that mattered. The hospital wing felt lighter without the tension he once carried, but his absence left something else behind, a reminder of what patience and empathy could achieve. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment now to like the video, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive and reaching people who need them most. Before the ending, we have one special request for you. Please comment below with a single word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. Hannah returned to her routine, taking new assignments, meeting new patients, carrying the quiet knowledge that she had changed a life without ever raising her voice. Nathaniel left the hospital not healed, but whole enough to begin again. And somewhere between fear and faith, a bond had formed that proved the impossible was never about strength. It was about staying when everyone else was afraid to.